Hello, everyone. Today, I would cover the current affairs from 13th of June to 19th of June. So let's get started. India's first private train service flagged off under the Bharat Gaurav scheme. So students, the Ministry of Tourism has launched this Bharat Gaurav scheme, and the first train to be operated between Coimbatore and Shirdi by a private operator under the Bharat Gaurav scheme of the Indian Railways was flagged off. It was started. And the Ministry of Tourism has informed that the first ever Bharat Gaurav train has been flagged off on Coimbatore North to Sainagar Shirdi route. The train would cover several historical destinations on the route while giving the passengers an insight into the cultural heritage of the country. So let students quickly understand what Bharat Gaurav trains are. So the Indian Railways had launched the operation of these theme-based Gaurav train in the month of November 2021. And the objective of this train is to showcase India's rich cultural heritage and magnificent historical places to the people of India and the world through Bharat Gaurav train. So basically, students, Bharat Gaurav trains, they follow a particular route, right? And usually, it is like on the route that you have like the famous places and monuments, places of historical and religious significance. So it covers all that, the entire circuit basically. And this scheme also aims to leverage the core strength of the professionals of the tourism sector to run theme-based trains to tap the vast tourist potential of India. So basically, students, there are two objectives of this scheme. One is, to showcase India's rich cultural heritage to the world. And second is to, tap the full potential, the tourist potential of India. Next, students, the government of India has launched Agni military recruitment scheme. So I have also done an editorial analysis video on this, wherein I have analyzed this in depth. So you can consider going through that also. And for the ones who have not seen that, let me quickly take you through this. So the Indian government has introduced the Agni military recruitment scheme, a 4-year tenure scheme for the defense troops. So basically, the government has announced this Agni scheme, which is about recruitments into the armed forces students, right? And it is going to facilitate the induction of more troops for shorter term tenure students. And the scheme has been planned and is being implemented by the Department of Military Affairs. So let's have a closer look at the various terms of this particular scheme. So students, this is a short-term service youth recruitment, right? Short-term. So it is not like a recruitment to the full-fledged services, right? But this is the short-term service youth recruitment scheme. And Agni Veers will be the name given to those chosen for the scheme, and they will serve in a variety of terrains such as deserts, mountains, land, sea, and air. Also, students, the scheme applies to all the wings, all the forces, be it Air Force, Navy, or the Army. And approximately 45,000 people aged between 17.5 and 21 will be inducted into the service for a 4-year period under the scheme. And the recruitment process will begin in the next 90 days. So basically, students, this is like it is written that this is a short-term service recruitment scheme wherein the youth will be hired, for only for 4 years. And this would include 6 months of service. And women will also be inducted in the Agnipath scheme, students, and they would be hired for 4 years and will get intensive military training. They will also receive a monthly wage of rupees 30,000 to rupees 40,000. And, after 4 years, students, they would be given the option to voluntarily apply for registration in the permanent cadre. And these applications will be evaluated based on merit and service performance. And it's possible that up to 25% of the submissions will be accepted. So basically, students, according to the scheme, although it is it would induct the soldiers for a period of 4 years. However, after 4 years, students, they would get this option of applying for permanent recruitment, permanent cadre, right? But only 25% of the people would be, considered for it. Probably based on performance and fitness conditions. Next, students, there was this, periodic labor force survey annual report that came out. And according to this, the female labor participation increased to 25.1%. Students, very important statistic. I want you all to note it down. That female labor participation in India that has increased to 25.1%, which is 1/4 of the labor force is now women, right? And so this has grown by 2.3. This has grown from 2.3% to 25.5% in 2021, up from 22.8% in the previous year. So basically, last year, the female participation in the workforce was 22.8, and it has now increased to 25.1%. That is an increase of 2.3%, students. In rural areas, female labor force participation has climbed by 3% to 27.7%, while in urban areas, students, it has increased to 18.6%. So a key point to note here is that in urban areas, the labor force, female labor force participation is less. If you see, it is at 18.6%. Whereas in the rural areas, the female labor force participation is 27.7%, right? And what is it? What is LFPR, labor force participation rate? It is the proportion of people who work in the population. Next, students, Russia overtakes Saudi Arabia to become India's second biggest oil supplier. So Russia has overtaken Saudi Arabia to become India's second biggest supplier of oil behind Iraq, as refiners snap up Russian crude available at a deep discount following the war in Ukraine, students. So we all know, students, that after this whole Russia-Ukraine crisis, Russia has drastically reduced the price of its crude oil. And a lot of other countries have stopped importing oil from Russia. And that's exactly the reason why Russia has reduced the price and now offering crude oil at a discounted rate. So refiners, Indian refiners, they have, capitalized on the opportunity to the extent that Russia has now become India's second biggest supplier of oil. So earlier, students, like Saudi Arabia was India's second biggest supplier of oil, but now it has been overtaken by Russia. And Indian refiners bought up about 25 million barrels of Russian oil in May, or more than 16% of all their oil imports. And Russian origin crude hit 5% of India's total seaborne imports in April for the first time, rising from under 1%. So basically what it says is that, Indian refiners, they bought about 25 million barrels, right? Which is about 16% of all their oil imports. That means India is importing 16% of the oil from Russia. That is one. Secondly, this is first time that it has gone up, 5% of India's total seaborne imports, which was earlier 1% throughout. Now, students, some key points of the report. After the US and China, India is at the world's third largest consumer of oil, students. So basically, for India, 85% of its oil is imported. You all should know this, students. 85% of our oil is imported. That means we rely majorly on foreign countries, external sources for our primary energy needs. That's one. And we are the third largest consumer of crude oil. And India, the world's third biggest oil importing and consuming nation, has long defended purchases of crude oil from Russia following Putin ordering the invasion of Ukraine, students. And the oil ministry had last month said that energy purchases from Russia remain minuscule in comparison to India's total consumption. So basically, students, there was a lot of pressure on India to stop importing oil from Russia and other, like other products and services that we trade with in Russia. But however, India has been able to sort of, defend that for a very long time. And India has always said that, our imports from Russia are a very small percentage. So that really doesn't make much of a difference. However, now, as we see that it is no more a minuscule percentage. It has gone up to, a very high percentage. And Iraq remained the top supplier to India in May, and Saudi Arabia is now the third biggest supplier. India has taken advantage of discounted prices to ramp up oil imports from Russia at a time when global energy prices have been rising, students. Next, students, India ranks 101 in the Global Hunger Index 2021, students. So India is at 101 position among 116 countries, students. Now that's something which is not surprising. India has been, over the past many years, India has performed very dismally in the, like the rankings for all the, like the social infrastructure, for that matter, education, hunger. So that doesn't come in as a surprise. However, it's just that we've, not been able to improve our ranking. So India rank has in fact dropped to 101 among 116. Earlier, it was 94th out of 107 countries. And students, if we look at other countries, our neighboring countries, Nepal 76, Bangladesh 76, Myanmar 71, Pakistan 92. So they are also in the alarming hunger category. But given that India, is at least in terms of economy, India is much better than the other countries that have been mentioned, the neighboring countries, and they're much smaller countries as compared to India. So India should have, India can't be compared with them. India, in fact, should have done much better than them. So India's score is 27.5 out of 50. A total of 18 countries, including China, Kuwait, Brazil, shares the top rank, and the GHI score of these 18 nations is obviously very high. Now, students, what are the 4 indicators on which the GHI scores are determined? Number 1, undernourishment, child wasting, child stunting, and child mortality rate. So students, all of you should know these terms. So undernourishment would be people who do not get, or children who do not get, insufficient calorie intake. Child wasting would be share of children under age 5 who have low weight for their height. So child wasting is low weight for their height. Child stunting, students, is, share of children under age 5 who have low height for their age. So stunting is when when the height is less for the age, and which reflects chronic undernutrition. And child mortality, students, that is reflecting the fatal mix of inadequate nutrition and unhealthy environment, students, right? So a lot of important terms there. Please keep this in mind, students. Very quickly, this index was published jointly by Wealth, Hunger, Life, WHH, and Concern Worldwide. So these are the 2 agencies that conducted this survey. Next, students, Maharashtra governor presents honorary doctorate to industrialist Ratan Tata. So industrialist and philanthropist Ratan Tata was presented with honorary Doctor of Literature by Maharashtra Governor Bhagat Singh Koshyari at Raj Bhavan in Mumbai. And this was presented to Mr. Ratan at the first special convocation of the HSNC University students. And the governor said that the honor for Ratan Tata is in fact the honor for the entire Tata family and Tata group. Next, students, Microsoft's Internet Explorer retires after 27 years, students. So the good old Microsoft Internet Explorer has retired now. And it has been announced that it would be completely phased out from June 15. Microsoft released the first version of Internet Explorer way back in 1995, students, as an add-on package for Windows 95. And a year ago, Microsoft said that it was putting an end to Internet Explorer on June 15, 2022, pushing users to its Edge browser, which was launched in 2015, students. And the company made clear that it was time to move on. Estimates for Internet Explorer's market share was only about 0.38%, students. So basically, the prime reason for phasing it out is the very low market share that it has, 0.38%. Now, students, Microsoft spent over $100 million per year on Internet Explorer in the late 90s, and over 1,000 people were involved in the project. And On March 17, 2015, Microsoft announced that Microsoft Edge would replace Internet Explorer as the default browser for certain versions of Windows 10 students. So even though Microsoft had launched a new browser, Microsoft Edge, in 2015, it continued with the Internet Explorer. But Internet Explorer was the 11th last release for Microsoft. Now, why Internet Explorer declined drastically, students? So basically, the reason is, students, that it faced huge competition from other browsers like Apple Safari, Mozilla Firefox, Chrome, Opera, Brave, Iron, Chromium, Focus. If you see, these are some of the most important browsers. And the nearly 3-decade-old browser peaked at 95% usage share in 2003. However, IE could not, which is Internet Explorer, could not maintain its position, and its user base started to decline drastically as other competitors released new browsers with better user interfaces, faster internet speed, and smoother performance. Xpay Life, the first blockchain-enabled UPI service provider in India. Now, students, Xpay Life, as it approached 3 years of its operation, it claimed to be India's first blockchain-enabled transaction framework, students. It has launched its UPI services aimed at rural India. So basically, there's this brand called Xpay Life, and it is a fintech company. It has launched its UPI services. It's in operation for the past 3 years. But the main point here is that it is blockchain-enabled, students, right? It is based on the blockchain technology. And it said that it is collaborating closely with regional rural banks and district cooperative banks to assist them more efficiently and provide full financial inclusion for the rural population with minimal disturbance. So basically, students, Xpay Life, it's a fintech startup that is focusing on the rural area, students. It wants to, expand the reach of fintech, technology, basically. And just a second. Yeah. And Xpay's life goal is to make financial services available to people in rural areas who need them the most. Xpay is expected to benefit from the debut of its UPI services, and they're throughout 15 states and 1 lakh villages, students. So I think that's great that this company is catering to the rural areas that certainly need financial services as much as the urban areas. Next, students, global startup ecosystem rankings, Kerala ranks top in Asia in global report, students. So providing a boost for Kerala's startup ecosystem, the state has been ranked first in Asia in affordable talent in global startup ecosystem report, students. So basically, there was this report on global startup ecosystem, and Kerala has ranked 1 in Asia in global report, students. The state has also been ranked 4th in global ranking, drawn up jointly by policy advisory and research organization startup Genome and Global Entrepreneurship Network. So Genome and Global Entrepreneurship Network, they conducted this, they released this index, according to which Kerala has ranked 4th in global ranking. Globally, it is 4th, and in Asia, it is number 1 in terms of startup ecosystem. And in terms of city, students, in the cities category, the city of Bengaluru has moved up to number 22 in global startup ecosystem ranking. And Bengaluru's tech ecosystem value is at $105 billion, which is higher than that of Singapore. And Tokyo, students, very important. You can write this, that India is really catching up in terms of the startup ecosystem, particularly the tech ecosystem. And if you look at Bengaluru, it is doing better than Singapore and Tokyo, right? And way better, way better. So what is this global startup ecosystem report, students? It was released in the backdrop of the ongoing London Tech Week 2022, which brings together global governments and corporate leaders, inspirational startup founders and investors to discuss the power of technology for societies. Next, students, WPI inflation spiked to 15.88% in May 2022. So students, we all know that India at this point is experiencing high level of inflation, particularly WPI, where we are, of course, we have touched double digit, and we are at 15.88% students. And this is highest since September 1991. Imagine, highest since September 1991 students, as a surge in price and pressure in food and fuel overwhelmed a moderation in the dominant manufactured product segment students. So basically, this is because of increasing commodity and fuel and food prices, and which is of course triggered by this whole Russia-Ukraine crisis. So students, India has remained in double digits for 14 months now, mirroring elevated global commodity prices, oil, according to the official data release. Now, if you look at the figures here, students, so January, we were at 12.96, February 13.11, March 14.55, in April 15.08. That means we are consistently moving upwards in terms of inflation, which is certainly a matter to worry about. Next, students, Soumya Narayan Sampath, an Indian American named CEO of Verizon Business. So according to Verizon news release, students, Soumya Narayan Sampath, an Indian American, will be the new CEO of Verizon Business. And he's joined Verizon in 2014 and will continue to his present role as Chief Revenue Officer till June 30. Post that he would assume the role of CEO. And he would report directly to the Verizon chairman and CEO, Hans Westberg. So basically, he's the CEO of Verizon Business students. He's worked at KPG and BCG students. He's graduated from St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, with a bachelor's degree. And he's a chartered accountant. And post that, he did his MBA from Boston University. Next, students, IMD's World Competitiveness Index 2022 is released, and India has ranked 37. Now, before we talk about India's performance, let's understand what is World Competitiveness Index, students. So IMD Business School in Switzerland and Singapore have released this World Competitiveness ranking, and its think tank, IMD World Competitiveness Center, has ranked 63 economies and assessed the extent to which a country promotes the prosperity of its people by measuring economic well-being via hard data and survey responses from executives. So basically, students, this particular index, it measures the extent to which a country promotes the prosperity of its people by measuring economic well-being, students, right? So if we talk about India's performance, India has seen the sharpest growth among the Asian economies, with a 6th position jump from 43rd to 37th rank on the annual World Competitiveness Index. So India has been able to improve its position from 37 to 43, that's one. And the index has been compiled by the Institute for Management Development, IMD Singapore. And the other top performing Asian economies are Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, China, and Australia, students. And India is also driving force in the global movement to fight climate change and Mr. Modi's pledge to net zero by 2070 at the COP26 summit. And the top 5 attractive factors of India's economy for business: skilled workforce, cost competitiveness, dynamism of economy, high educational level, and open and positive attitude, students, right? So these are the 5 most attractive factors of India's economy for business. This is what the report said. And Denmark has moved to the top of the 63 nation list from 3rd position last year. Switzerland slipped from top ranking to 2nd. And Singapore regained the 3rd spot from 5th, students. So basically, we have Denmark, Switzerland, and Singapore among the top 3 countries. Next, students, trade deficit of India, it has broadened to $24.29 billion in May 2022, students. So according to the Ministry of Commerce, trade data, it released the trade data, and it showed that India's May trade deficit widened to $24.29 billion from $6.53 billion a year ago. So a year ago in May, students, our trade deficit was $6.53 billion, which has now increased to $24.29 billion, students. And this was pushed up by a surge in import, students. And despite the uncertainty and volatility caused by the war in Europe, our engineering goods export rose, students. And our merchandise exports have also increased, but so have our import students. However, overall students, India's trade deficit has broadened and has widened to $24.29 billion. So that's all for this video, students. I would see you next week with another video on current affairs. Thank you so much.